SeniorLivingGuide.com podcast discusses topics which are relevant to the everyday lives of seniors and their caregivers. We are joined by experts who share their knowledge on a variety of issues. SeniorLivingGuide.com podcast offers solutions and resources to create the best quality of life as we age. And now, let's welcome your host, Darleen Mahoney.
SeniorLivingGuide.com is the most comprehensive online resource for seniors and their caregivers. We provide details on senior living communities to include retirement, assisted living, independent living, skilled nursing, memory care, as well as senior resources, home and healthcare solutions, all in one easy-to-navigate website, allowing you to decide which best fits your needs and connect you directly in one easy step. Visit us online at SeniorLivingGuide.com and start your search today. And I would like to express our gratitude to our podcast sponsors, Transmed Care Long Distance Medical Transportation and GoGo Grandparent. When a loved one with a disability or medical condition needs to relocate, Transmed Care is here to help with safe and secure nationwide medical transport services, while GoGo Grandparent provides reliable local rides, no smartphones required, with all drivers and vehicles screened to meet your mobility needs. Check us out at SeniorLivingGuide.com podcast. We are making sure that our seniors are getting exactly where they need to go. And today we are with Kimberly Richardson. She is the president and founder of Widows of Opportunity. Widows of Opportunity is dedicated to helping widows, widowers, and the bereaved achieve self-sufficiency, become the leaders of their homes, families, and move forward in a positive path after coping with their loss. We're super excited to have you today, Kimberly, because we're going to talk about something we've actually never covered on this podcast. And it's something I think we don't think about a lot of times. And we always talk about, downsizing and then moving into a community, but we don't talk about what that's actually the reality of that and what that's like.
Thank you for having me, Darlene. And you're correct. We don't talk about that. And also we don't talk about after the funeral. After the funeral is over, unfortunately. Right.
And when seniors transition into an assisted living, they face so many challenges. It's a new beginning. It's a new life. It's a new lifestyle. And there's just so many changes. It's really insurmountable. So let's talk a little bit about that, because it can really change their loss of independence for sure. Their routine is completely different because they may not be able to maintain whatever the routine was that they had at home. And then their family life is completely changed.
Absolutely.
As well. Yeah. And then they're eating, they're cooking, all the things is completely changed. Your life is completely taking a brand new trajectory.
Absolutely.
So talking about like the social and relational losses. So kind of jumping into that. So you've downsized, you may have lost your spouse. You're going into a community because you need to. You may have some physical issues. You may have some cognitive issues, or maybe it's just an independent move. You may just decide you don't want to live alone anymore, but that still has some challenges. So what do you think that those challenges are, and how do you cope with them?
So I think it depends on the choice. For some seniors, they move there by choice. So they want to downsize because maybe they no longer want to live in the big home. Some children, their adult children, bring them there because they feel like the parents may have fallen. They're getting sicker and they need more assistance. And also they can't help them because they're working. So it all depends on if they chose to go there or if they were taken there. So if they were taken there and didn't choose, that's rough because Now they have to move out of their home, their comfort zone, especially if they lost a spouse. So not only have they lost their spouse of 20, 30, 40 plus years, they've now lost their home. And from coming, a lot of them come from nice size homes. You're talking 3,000, 4,000 square feet or more to move into a tiny little apartment. So when they do that, that means that they have to put their belongings in a storage or sell. And so they've lost not only their spouse, their home, their community, their independence, and they don't feel like a parent. They don't feel like an adult. They feel like a child. And it's like, how does my child tell me what to do? I'm the adult. So there's a lot of things that they're dealing with. And then if they chose to do that, then that's different. Anytime you make a choice on your own, it's better than having someone take it from you or force you to do something you wasn't ready to do or don't want to do.
Yeah, your whole world is completely changing. Your independence is completely gone. Even if it's a choice, I still think that you have to come to terms with a lot of different things because it's still a brand new world.
Absolutely.
Even if you know that you're doing it, it's a whole new world that there may be some things that you just quite didn't expect as well.
Absolutely. You've also left your community. So when they move into those new communities, and there's a lot of nice ones, beautiful ones, and they lose their license, which a lot of them do. That's a huge loss. Their independence is gone. So they have to wait for a ride. So that could be an issue. Also, when you live on your own, if you wake up, you can go downstairs and have breakfast in your pajamas. You literally have to get up and get dressed to go out of your apartment to, have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Also, you have to get used to strangers around you. Also depends on if you're in assisted living. Independent living, you're independent, of course. And then assistant, sometimes they check your room. They might walk in on you. So, it's a lot of different phases that you go through with whether it's independent or assisted living. And I do agree with you, no matter whether you chose it or not, is a big difference when you leave your home to go in one of those communities.
Right. And privacy is a big one because once you move out of your own home where you control who comes and goes, even when you move into, other than independent, if you have a private apartment that you're renting, then, you definitely have a lot more privacy there. But when you're moving into an assisted, then there are people that might be coming and going, especially if they're doing the medication management side, that type of thing, then your privacy is definitely a lot more limited with people coming and going.
Absolutely.
For sure. Yeah. So that's something you're kind of tackling and need to understand before you move there, that might be something you need to understand will be part of it.
Absolutely.
Now, one of the things that I think is probably the hardest and really needs to be addressed are the emotional and psychological losses that come with moving to any type of community, whether you're moving into a very beautiful upscale community or one that's meeting your basic needs, whatever the case may be, I still think that there's some level of that. So let's address those a little bit.
So when you move like that, I think the issue is the downsizing. There are things that you no longer can take. There's things you can't take with you. So you're missing those things. I go into these communities on a weekly basis. And I do educational workshops, and I talk to so many of them. And there was a one particular resident stating that they had to move, and it was a quick move, and they weren't able to take things that they wanted to take with them. And they really, the adult children brought them in and brought in their necessities, like this is what you need. But it was certain things that they wanted to have. We all have our special things. And so when they went back to the house, which I thought was nice of the adult children to do that, they said, we're going to put you in the house for an hour. We're going to leave you here for 1 hour and we'll be back. You better have everything you need. Well, I'm sorry. Most of us don't move as fast as we used to. So an hour is not really enough time to get through all of the things that you packed in a box. And also when you pack things in a box, you don't know where some things are at. So a lot of times people are leaving, if you lost a loved one, you may have kept their watch or their necklace. You could walk into someone's home and you could see a piece of jewelry or even like a shirt, and you thinking, oh, it's just a piece of shirt or just a piece of jewelry. But to someone else, it's like $1 billion because it's memorable. It was left by a loved one. So when you take that away from them, that can be an emotional, can cause some emotional issues like, where is my blanket? Where's the jewelry? Or where's X, Y, and Z at? So I think that's a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. An hour is not sufficient.
No.
I think that no, I can't clean my closet in an hour, girl. So
no.
And I will tell you, I had to clean out my dad's house after he moved, and I did the very best that I could. I was very stretched it was in a different city, and then I was trying to take care of him, get him moved, work a full-time job, all the things. So I was very stretched, and I went through as much as I could possibly go through. And I literally still have, and then I had a company that went in and did some things. But I think back, and it's still, even now, just thinking about it, it like twists my stomach, because one thing that I don't know where my mother kept them. My mother passed away a year prior. So I don't know where my mother kept them, but all of the Christmas ornaments, I don't know where those were. But I realized after the fact, I never saw the Christmas stuff. So she had to have kept them somewhere that I didn't go through. So I don't know where they were. I'm thinking they were maybe like in like a closet that I thought was maybe not important.
Yes.
And so this was years ago. My mom died in 2018. It still makes me sick to this day that I did not take more time and do that. And I mean, I spent weeks every weekend. So an hour is not sufficient.
No.
But for me, all the things that I got from my dad, I really tried to make sure the things that were important to him, that had meaning to him, came with him. And he had dementia. I'm not even sure he knew what was important. But for him, I needed to make sure that like all his photo albums with family was there. I needed to make sure that he was a painter. So a lot of the pictures that he had painted were there. So all of those things I think were just super important for him, and just to have that feeling of being at home.
Yes.
For me were important. And then even for me, just going through like clothes, like just even a shirt that my dad had, I still have to this day because it reminds me of my dad. So it's things like that, even for the family, that for them not to take a little bit of time to go through those things are going to have, to me, some regret
Absolutely.
at some point. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so as far as like the senior that's now in the community that may be missing some of those things, some of the other aspects I think that they have when they're living in the community is, we talked a little bit about decision-making power. Sometimes I think when you're in there, you don't get to make your own
Correct.
plan for the day.
Correct.
As much. When my dad was in a community, and after he had actually passed away, I went up there for an event because I still stayed fairly active in that community because I was just so connected to the people that were working there. And they moved in a senior, and she was clearly an older lady, but it broke my heart and I didn't know what to do. I just, I held her hand a little bit. She just gotten there that day that this event was going on, and she just cried and cried and cried. She sat at the craft table and she just cried and cried and cried. And I just wanted to like wrap her, and I just didn't know. I didn't know how to fix it.
Yeah.
I didn't know how. I didn't know her story. Her family was no longer there. They may have been there earlier in the day. I don't know, but she was just so broken, and I just didn't know how to fix it.
I'll add that everyone in this world wants to be heard, period. And that's the thing. Once these seniors are retired, they no longer, a lot of them don't feel needed. And I'm only going by what was told to me by them. They don't feel needed anymore. Why am I here? What's the purpose? And so sometimes they just want to be heard. When your adult children are moving you around, a lot of the adult children, if not all of them, are extremely busy with life. They have careers, they have children, they have spouses, and they're busy, busy, busy. So they're dropping you off. It's like when we drop our kids off at daycare and we keep on moving, but they're not our children, they're our parents. So they really don't make the time to sit down and say, Mom, what's wrong? Dad, what's wrong? Because they look at, he or she is complaining again. And I think a simple ear will do for so many people. Just listening to the person cry, just listen to the person say what they have to say and not give your opinion is so huge. And that's what I do when I go into these different communities. I teach, but I also listen. There was a senior saying that my son takes great care of me. And however, I've never seen my bank account and I would like to see my money. What should I do? I said, you should just ask him. It's your money. At the end of the day, it's your money. I understand your son pays the bills with your money here. He wants you comfortable. You're comfortable here. You don't have to worry about anything. You wake up, you go, you come as you please. However, that is your money. Ask him for the bank statement. He's going to show you your money. It's not like you're asking him for his bank statement. And she did, and she was shocked that he asked. But the thing is, I'm not a senior yet, and it's like you have to ask your own child for permission to see your own money. So it's amazing how life changes that way. And you have to say, can I ask my daughter? Can I ask my son to see my account? Yes, you can. I know they've been taking care of you for a while, but yes, you can ask them to do that because that is your money.
We at GoGo Grandparent are so excited to be joining this podcast. With just one call to GoGo, you or a loved one can request a reliable ride anywhere you want to go. No smartphone required. All drivers and vehicles are screened and monitored to meet your mobility needs and can accommodate impairment equipment, such as a walker or a wheelchair. Plus, GoGo membership offers concierge services on meals and grocery delivery, as well as home services, which can include maintenance on your home, cleaning, gardening services. To learn more or sign up for GoGo, call 1-855-970-6294 or visit gogograndparent.com/SeniorLivingGuide.
Hi, this is Andrew Brainerd, owner of TransMedCare Long Distance Medical Transportation. When the time comes to relocate a loved one under medical care, TransMedCare is here to help. We offer nationwide medical transport services with fully customized vans providing all the comforts of home, and licensed medical professionals to accompany your loved one along every mile. At TransMedCare, nothing is more important than bringing your loved one home safely. Visit our website at trans-medcare.com.
I do think, if you are listening to this and you are caregiving for someone and you are in the position where you're going to need to move someone to an assisted living or even memory care, just because it's gotten to the stage where you're going to need to have those additional services, really understanding the emotional issues that are going to happen with this. I think it's so important. And this is just not even moving into a senior living community. When my grandmother, who lived in her house that she lived in since my mom was a teenager, left her house and she knew it would be the final time, she was moving to Tennessee to age in place with my aunt. She called me from the road. And I remember having this conversation and she was crying. She was just bawling. And she said, I'm never going to live in my house again. I'm never going to cook eggs in my kitchen again. I'm never going to sit on my back porch and watch. She lived behind an elementary school and watch the children play during recess again. Wow. So she went over all these things that were going through her head of just her daily life, in her home that she'd had for all these years that were just part of her daily routine that were no longer.
Correct.
And I think recognizing that, acknowledging it, and having empathy for that are huge steps for that person. Instead of, I think sometimes we're moving so fast that I don't want to say you blow them off, but you disregard them.
Yes, absolutely.
Instead, you go, oh, mom, you'll be fine. Oh, mom, you'll be good.
Yes.
I don't think that's fair.
Also, this is so serious. If you're visiting your parents on a weekly, a bi-weekly basis, which is very important, this is the last stop for them. I've had so many of them. They're very blunt at that age. And they're like, oh yeah, the next step is the graveyard. I'm like, okay, but let's just be realistic. The next step is either the grave or, memory care or the grave. And so, we're so busy. Some of us are so busy with life and we're not understanding, that your mother and father is in this independent assisted living, that there's no more after this. So this is a time to really slow down and appreciate them, because once they're gone, they're gone. And it's unfortunate when they are gone, some of the adult children sit down and say, oh, I wish I would have just stopped, slowed down, spent more time, but it's too late to go back when someone's gone for good. So it's important that the adult children slow it down and listen to their parents and be there, because it's not like their parents we're not getting younger, we're getting older. So I feel really bad when I understand the busyness. I've been there, but I also been there when my mother needed me and I stopped working to take care of her. And I understand a lot of people can't do that, because if you stop working, you are going to probably lose your home, your car, etc. So it's like, but you don't get any, you only get one mom, you only get one dad. So make time for them. If it has to be every Sunday for an hour, make it do what it needs to do when it comes to your adult parents, the seniors.
I 100% agree. And I will absolutely tell you that if you don't do it, you will live with regret, and you will live with regret until your last days. And then I will also tell you, as you get older, you will hope and pray that it doesn't happen to you.
Right. Right.
So
correct.
Yeah. So another thing that starts happening, and we talk about this would be their last stop. And another thing as a caregiver, and if you are the one, with that power of attorney and making those decisions for your parent or loved one, making sure that because they are in an assisted living or memory care or whatever the case may be, that they are their last days or the last few years or whatever, they are in the best possible scenario. We do want them in senior living communities that are providing social engaging activities, that are providing quality meals, that are doing all of the things. You really make that a priority and make sure that they are being well taken care of. So that's a huge priority too. I cannot advocate enough to be involved in that community, get to know the people that are working there, get to know the staff, life enrichment community, get to know who's heading that up and what they're doing. I think those are all super important, not just to be involved with your parent, but be involved with the staff as well.
Absolutely. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, get to know them. Yeah, for sure. So we've talked a little bit about the emotional and psychological losses, but there's also a potential for the loss of your identity, and then cognitively, unfortunately, a lot of times seniors have cognitive impairment, whether they even have dementia or Alzheimer's. There's some form of cognitive decline that can definitely happen as we age.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So some of that, you talked a little bit about the money management side of it. Clearly, you have to deal with some inability to deal with your own money. I know that with my dad having dementia, I think he was dealing with a lot of the money, and I think it was causing him a lot of stress and anxiety because he was trying to figure that out. And one of the things I remember saying to him is I said, Dad, you don't have to worry about paying all these bills anymore. We're taking care of it. We've got it. It's off your plate. And he looked at me, and the relief that came across his face was, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I don't have to do that ever again. I said, no, never again, Dad. I've got it. And in all honesty, I was afraid he was going to be upset. I was afraid he was going to say, you're not supposed to take it, because that would have been pre-dementia Dad. That would have been, you stay out of my finances. I never even knew how much money my dad made. I was not one to get involved in my father's finances. it wasn't. I didn't get in my mother's purse. I didn't get in my father's finances. It felt so weird to me. It just felt so weird. So I was so glad that he felt that relief that I was now going to take care of them and was taking that off of his plate.
Absolutely.
So exactly.
I would like to say something, if that's okay.
Yeah, no.
There's a lot of, I've been in this business. I've been the founder of Widows of Opportunity for 15 years, but I've been working with the senior independent living and assisted living for the last 9 years. And there's so many adult children, unfortunately, when they were younger, the seniors, when they were younger and raising their children, they didn't have enough time for their children because they were busy with work or what have you. And so now some of their children aren't in their lives. They dropped them off and didn't come back. And I've had the pleasure of meeting them, and they're being honest about it and saying, I was not a good parent. I wasn't there for my child, and their children aren't there for them at the end. There was a senior that I decided to work with for the past 3 years. She was just very honest from day one. I wasn't there for my daughter. At the time when I was raising my daughter, my father passed away. I fell into depression, and I was on medication, and it just wasn't allowing me to give my daughter all that I can give her. And my mother raised her. And so they didn't have a close relationship. This senior was getting very sick. She had renal failure. And she was in and out of the hospital. So, I was there for her. And then she was diagnosed, in October of last year with terminal cancer. I reached out to her daughter and I let her daughter know, your mother has terminal cancer. And she said, well, is she dying? And I said, I'm not God. I don't know when she's going to die. I don't know what's going to happen. But if you can get here, get here. And so she was kind of hesitant. So I decided to pack up the senior, and we drove to meet the daughter. She hadn't seen her daughter in 6 years. So I took her to see her daughter and her granddaughter. And maybe 2 to 3 weeks later, she passed away, but she ended up going into hospice. And while in hospice, I was there for her daily, taking care of her. And I reached out to her daughter to say, hey, your mother's in hospice. And she's like, okay. She never did anything. And then when her mother passed, she came and got the body and, did what she needed to do with that. And I refuse to judge anyone on their behavior. But if you're listening and your adult child and your mother and father weren't there for you when you were younger and you haven't seen them, you don't want to see them, I know you want to see them. I think it's important that you reach out to them, even if you have to say, I'm so mad with you. How dare you leave me? You need to get it off your chest because there's no coming back once they're gone. And I understand her daughter was angry. She had the right to be angry. Absolutely. But I know she's hurting more because she never had the chance to say, Mom, why didn't you? Why, just express yourself respectfully. So again, I just wanted to share that. Like I don't understand because my mom and dad were great and they were there for me, but I can understand as a child, if my mom and dad wasn't there for me, I probably wouldn't have been there for them. And that's just something some of us do. When we hurt people. So it's like, just understand that they're older now and they're weak and fragile, and get it off your chest respectfully. Because again, as we know, once they're gone, they're gone. So I just wanted to share that for those who are listening.
100%. There are imperfect parents. Yes. It's just the reality of it. And those imperfect parents will age, and they will end up not having anyone to take care of them. But those children that are the adults of those imperfect aging parents may be parents as well at that point. And I think it's important to kind of think about that. Parenting is hard. Life happens. And I think parents, and not that I'm making excuses for it, because as a parent myself, I would walk on glass for my children. I just, and they're grown. My children are grown, and I would still walk on glass for my children. I don't understand the concept of not doing that, and making life choices that get in the way of that. But I know that some people have grown up very differently than I did. I had two very fabulous parents that were very supportive as well. So I don't have anything to relate to that. But I think we have to have a forgiving heart, even from someone that doesn't ask for forgiveness, or it will actually eat you alive.
Absolutely.
And it does nothing for you. I mean, you have to forgive in order to be a better person, move on, and for you to be a better parent. I just think it's very important. And to realize that they're human too. And at some point you just have to let it go.
Also, in life, there's seasons. The seasons change. We have the summer, spring, fall, winter. And when I say seasons, there's seasons in your life is a roller coaster. So if you think about your life, everyone who's listening, think about your life. You've had great days and you had terrible days and you have bad days, etc. When you're suffering emotionally, physically, financially, in any kind of way, you're not going to be your best person. You're not going to be the best wife, the best husband, the best mother, the best father, etc. So a lot of times our parents raised us and they were in a difficult season. As a child, we don't see that because we just don't have the maturity to see, okay, mama and daddy are struggling, but we don't know that. Now that we're older, we should understand and have a little consideration. Say, okay, I can see why mom and dad did that. It wasn't cool. I don't like it, but I can understand why they did some of the stuff. I don't know everyone's story. So some stories are more tragic than others. And there's no excuse for what the mom and dad did. But then the others, you have to say, wait a minute, when people are in different seasons of their lives, they react differently. Just take that in consideration.
I like that. I like the comparison to different seasons because you're absolutely right. And then I think also as you age and get older, you do start realizing the mistakes that you've made and you do try to fix them. You try to make amends for them. And at some points, clearly in the case that you just referenced, that may have been too late.
Yes, absolutely.
To make those amends with that daughter. So absolutely. So let's talk about like the spiritual and existential losses. So spiritually, one of the things that a lot of folks have is they have religious experiences as far as like going to church on Sundays and things like that. And some of those activities may be slimmed down. Now, some communities offer church services, they offer Bible groups, they offer different things, but some of them may not. So that might be something that you think about if that's important before going into a community, if those needs are going to be met.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because those are very important.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. Because that can feed a soul.
Yes. And, a lot of people, as we get older, are in church a lot, so that changes, of course, once you move into a community. But I totally agree with you. You want to look into what the community offers. Also, we talked about the upscale community. So the more that you spend, the more opportunities you get in the community, more amenities you get. And so if you're on a fixed income, on a budget, then sometimes you may get less. But all of the communities I've visited in the last 9 years, which has been a lot, they all had some type of church activity, whether it be prayer or Bible study on a Thursday or a Sunday. So you have to take advantage of that, get out of your comfort zone and go in. Some people don't want to do that. And also people have different religious backgrounds, so they may not be comfortable going into there. So that is huge too. That's another loss for those people who are used to a certain type of religion, and then this community only offers one particular religion background. So I agree with that, what you said earlier about the loss of that and having it or not having it.
Right. And then as we started the podcast off talking about if you're grieving because of the loss of a spouse, having that support, especially if it's a faith-based support, can be something that's really important to you going through that grieving and loss. You really might need that extra layer, not just a friendship layer, not just a family layer, but having someone from that spiritual group that you would typically be relying on.
Absolutely. Yes.
For sure. So that faith-based. So some different things. Did you have anything else that you were thinking about as far as your experiences, since you do go into all these communities and you talk to the residents, that you can kind of share with us that you think can really affect them when they're moving into an assisted living, and some tips on how to navigate that in a way that some of our listeners can learn from that?
So if you're the adult child, again, earlier I said to listen. It's important to listen. Take a day, half a day or something to spend time with your parents and listen to what they have to say. Yes, they're going to probably get on your nerves. Yes, they're probably going to talk too much, but this is the opportunity to do that. I think back when me and my brother was taking care of my mom, and my brother was really strict on my mom with certain things. And then when she passed, he said, you know what? I just wish I let her have that steak. I just wish I let her have those French fries. It wasn't that serious. So you're taken away from the time spent. And that is quality time, whether you know it or not, listening to your child, your mom and dad complain, if you want to say complain about what have you. Visit as much as you can, because once they're gone, there's no coming back. It's really simple, but sometimes we make things complicated. This is very important. This is a must. It's just a must to do, because this is their last stop. And if they move any further in that community, it's going to be into memory care. And that's not a good stop for those who have dealt with their parents who've been in memory care, because at that point they've forgotten stuff. They don't remember much. So just be considerate. Also treat them the way you want to be treated. When you get older, how would you want your adult children to treat you? How would you want to be handled? I think that's important as well.
Yeah, I think that should be first and foremost in most folks' minds when you're dealing with your parents, because in that reality is, I think sometimes you get so in the groove that you don't even think about the fact that at some point in life, we will all be there. Yes. Unless you die before that. Absolutely. You will at some point get there, yes. Right? It's death and taxes. I always, yes. And I've said this more than once on this podcast. I don't know about the taxes anymore, but the death is, there's no get out of jail free card for that. It doesn't exist. Yes. So I think it's important to kind of really think about that. How would I want to be treated? And it does get harder. It can be very challenging with aging parents, and it can very, very much be challenging with an aging parent that you had a bad childhood with, that you don't particularly like. I know we did a podcast, and it's actually one of our, I think it's like a number 2 or 3 podcast, Taking Care of Someone You Don't Like. That's the name of the podcast. And it is because people will find themselves, whether it's financial or out of obligation or whatever the case may be, they will take care of a family member mm-hmm. that maybe they don't really care yes. for, or they do care for, but that person now has some cognitive issues that's made them grouchy.
Yes.
And that can be very, very challenging. So I think it is important to really think about all of those things, and support groups are out there, finding friends that have the same mutual issues so you can get together, yes. grab a bite to eat, have some wine, decompress, yes. and then move on. All those things are important so that it can help you kind of navigate those waters. Don't put yourself in a bubble where you explode.
I like that you said that, because sometimes we just keep going and going and going and going and going, and it's mm-hmm. not that serious. You have to slow down. Right. You have to make time for yourself. Yeah. Even if it's just 30 minutes, it has to start somewhere. Yeah. If you got to slow down, it's before you pull into the garage at the house. If you have to stop at the stop sign and just sit there and woosah, or if you have to sit in your car for like 30 minutes and woosah before you go in the house, you have to do that, because when you don't take care of yourself, you're going to break down emotionally, if not physically. So it's important that you do that.
And I will tell you, I had some really good cries in my car. Mm-hmm. I got it out, cried it out, wiped it up, put some yes. makeup on, and then went on.
Yes.
And I felt so much better. If you need to do that, do it.
Absolutely.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely. We're human.
Yeah. The car and the shower, my best friends.
And it's nothing yes. wrong with that. We're human. I mean, you have to get out of that superwoman and superman take it off, throw it away. All this trying to be strong, you're going to break. You're going to break. And you're going to bleed on other people, and you're going to bleed on those people that love you. If you're married, you're going to bleed on your wife. You have children, you're going to bleed on them. No, don't do that. And also therapy is awesome. You can go do it virtually. You don't have to necessarily pull up and go into the office. So think about getting into therapy and joining support groups. Like you said, you have to get it off your chest, because it's hard going to work, taking care of yourself, taking care of your family, and then taking care of your elderly parents. It's hard. It's not easy at all. And you're not by yourself with that. Yeah.
It is not for the weak.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I do want to sign off here, but I did want you to share a little bit about exactly what Widows of Opportunity is, where you're located, and then also your website URL, which we will also include in the description on all the apps. So anyone that's listening can also click on it and access that website.
Thank you so much, Darlene. So Widows of Opportunity is located out of South Carolina, but we do travel if you ever need me to speak or educate on grief and loss. Also on senior living, because we do work with the seniors in independent and assisted living. You can reach us at 803-238-5301. Also, we do one-on-one sessions virtually. So if you are interested in doing one for grief and loss of loved ones, again, 803-238-5301. And the website is widowsofopportunity.com. And thank you so much, Darlene, for this opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. This was a great chat. I think it was one that a lot of people needed to hear, and hopefully they were able to get some really great nuggets out of it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much again.
Absolutely. If you enjoyed this podcast, our podcast can be heard anywhere you enjoy music or podcasts, such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, and so much more. We have just entered our 5th season, and we have over 100 episodes for you to listen to. Thanks for listening.